Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's Bird and Pilot video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for today's Bird and Pilot video. Day 10 will take us to the 9th of January, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the GFS and ECM Ensembles. May run to around a couple of weeks. We'll have a look at CFS V2 at the end of the horror. Yeah, he's still coughing. We'll have a look at the CFS V2 at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks. So that gets us pretty much to the end of January. I'll get on with that for you in a moment. Just to say about the first video today was our 6 AM UK weather forecast, and we've released weekend forecast as well. So check out those two videos if you'd like to do that. Like, share and subscribe on all of today's videos and content as you show everybody for dear back. No EC46 day this week, it's all back next week. No, we do ease off on some of the additions and add-ons through the Christmas week, but everything will be back to normal next week. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you're having a lovely Saturday. And just thank you so much to my good friend Whitby Photographer. Thank you so much to the Whitby Photographer for your super thanks on Dowie Day. So I think it's on Thursday. It's very hard to keep track of the days, isn't it, this time of the year. So I think this was on the video on the 28th, which was Thursday. That's right, isn't it? Thank you so much to the Whitby Photographer for your super thanks. And, it's been my pleasure to provide all of the videos last across the year. Thank you so much, my friend. If you'd like to give a super thanks to GavsWeatherVids, all you need to do is find the thanks button underneath the video player here at YouTube, or behind the three little dots there. You can give a super thanks and it'll flag it, you comment, I'll pin it, and then you get a shout out in the videos as well. Thank you so much to the Whitby Photographer for your super chat. Thank you so much, my friend. Okay, let's start off with what's going on in the stratosphere then. So, excuse me, warming continuing to strengthen over Russia and Siberia. We're now reaching the orange colours there over Siberia. Meanwhile, the blue colours over the Arctic Ecuador pulse, with the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere, continue over the next few days. That warming of the stratosphere will continue to strengthen over western Russia, reaching its peak around the 3rd of January there, and become really quite an intense warming over Siberia, beginning to push into the North Pole itself as well there. Really quite an intense warming from Russian Siberia over into the pole through the opening days of January. You would look at that and think that would be enough to reverse the zone wind, but it's not going to be. It is only going to be a dramatic weakening of the zone wind at 10 HPA, I think, just not quite enough to reverse the zone wind. It is causing a displacement event of polar vortex. You see the blue colours here, which remember is the PV at its roots in the stratosphere, being pushed out into northern Europe, the North Atlantic and eastern parts of America. That's the situation by the 7th of January. And of course, the warming is beginning to ease off the gas by then. But still significantly above average across most of the Arctic, really, with the blue colours again pushed out and displaced down into the mid-latitudes. Excuse me, once again, everybody. So we go through into the more extended range. We see the polar vortex trying to reorganise itself, trying to push back to the pole. Remember, the polar vortex is always going to try and get back to its default position, which is over the top of the North Pole, of course. But another warming starts to gather pace then as we go through into the second week of January. We've got secondary warming here over Russia. That one not as intense as the first warming, but enough to keep the PV displaced at its roots in the stratosphere over Northern America, the North Atlantic, and into northern parts of Europe as well. So significant southern stratospheric warming taking place over Siberia, but not reaching the criteria of a major southern stratospheric warming event over the North Pole, because it's not going to send a zone of wind into reverse at 10 HPA. And no split of PV, but a displacement event taking place through the first week or so of January. That is the current idea. Okay, right, these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University. We've got the ECM on the top, and the GFS is down here on the bottom. Have a look at that in a moment. 500 millibars, 80,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere, high pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to above average height, which is high pressure. Blue to below average heights, which is low pressure. Now check out what the ECM is doing. Very, very interesting here. Big area of high pressure in the North Atlantic going up to Iceland and Greenland with a trough of low pressure across much of Europe. That brings in the wind from a cold easterly direction. So the ECM looking cold and wintry there in the 7 to 10 day time frame. We will have a look at that in detail in a moment, but it's just heads up of what you're going to see later on in the video. A cold and wintry ECM run. This is the GFS. It's not all that different, but there are subtle differences. So the high pressure is still there, excuse me, once again, in the Atlantic, but it's not as far north as the ECM has. It's like more of a mid-Atlantic ridge. Low pressure is more down towards southern Europe. So this means that we're much more on the periphery of the cold. The cold is really going through there, to be honest. So the cold is still there across northern Europe, but it's more through central and then down into southern parts of Europe. So an idea that, you know, could be snowing on the palm trees of, I don't know, the Balearic Islands or something crazy like that. But meanwhile, we sort of are protected by this area of high pressure. It would only take a very subtle adjustment to place us into the cold air like the ECM has. It's just going at high pressure further north and centre it around here as opposed to there, and then, you know, we'd be in business with getting in some cold weather from the east and from the northeast. What we can say about both options, both scenarios, are significantly drier in the 7 to 10 day time frame. So whether we turn appreciably cold or not, I think we'll turn cooler, but whether we turn appreciably cold or not remains to be seen. But it does look as though we could be in for some drier weather at long last as we go in towards the second week of January, perhaps. So the temperature remains very mild, coming out at 7 degrees, that is 2.5 above 6.9 average, visual yesterday 29. I've got a feeling that's probably going to hold at 7 degrees now. I thought that would tick down into the 60s before month's end, but it's another very mild day today. Tomorrow will be a little bit cooler, but I think they might pop it up to 7.1. Tomorrow might drop it back to 7.0. So averaging it all out, we're probably going to have a 7 Celsius CT finish, which is, of course, an exceptionally mild CT for December, and it joins in with all of the other really mild months that we've had, you know, through 2023 so far. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. These are the 500 millibar height anomaly flow charts from Penn State University. Look at Brighton today. The red line is the 30-year upper air temperature. What are we talking about? These are the GFS ensembles, upper air temperature precipitation ensembles. I'm so sorry, I'm still not quite with it. I'm still recovering from the cold that I had earlier in the week. So let's do that again. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. Look at Brighton today. The red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Brighton. We're starting off close to average at the moment. We will see a bit of a tick down into the new year and then a lift up around 2nd, 3rd January. That's only as another area of low pressure comes in. After that, we've got a general cooling train going on, excuse me, from the first week into the second week of January. There is a lot of scatter within that. We have got some ensemble modes that are going really very cold indeed, going down to minus 10 or lower at 850 HPA. We have got mild ensemble members as well. You'll notice the thick green line here, that's the GFS 6Z operation run, becomes cold for a short time and then really takes off and becomes very mild later on. And you'll see that in a moment as well. But all sorts of havoc going on within the GFS ensembles there. Precipitation-wise, lots of precipitation to come over the next week. So the deluge will continue into the first week of January. Possibly a bit of a drying trend, at least a while, into the second week of the month. Snow row. Looking like that. Not much happening until we get into the second week of January, and then we have got a few snow spikes period. Let's go a little bit further northwards to London. Not much different really, and further north to Aberdeen. There it does look a little bit more encouraging from a snow perspective, as early as around the 3rd to the 5th of January. Right, let's go there. Let's have a quick look at the ECM ensemble. We don't often show those, but we can show you the same format for the ECM. And that's a 6 there, so I'm going to go to the midnight run. And yeah, so there you see it. Again, similar idea. So starting off close to average with the upper air temperatures for Bright, which is very representative of southern England anyway. Cooling trend in from the first week to second week of January. Probably more defined. There's less scattered there. So overall, the ECM ensembles are looking colder. You know, compared to the GFS, but there are less milder runs. Notice the thick green line, which is the ECM operation run, is at the coldest end of the range, but not an outlier. There are several ECM ensemble members doing something similar to the ECM there. Again, same idea for precipitation. Lots of wet weather to come over next week, possibly a drying trend into the second week of January. Temperature anomaly is from the 30th to the 7th of January. A little bit cold now, Scotland above average for Ireland, England, Wales. Northern Europe looking really cold for Scandinavia and Nordic regions as well as northwestern Russia. Precipitation anomalies generally above average, particularly for England and Wales, a bit drier further north. Latest Windflow Map from knowleschool.net shows we've got yet another deep Atlantic low sitting just to the west of the country. Active weather front bringing heavy rain and for northern regions a little bit of snow as well. So yes, another onslaught type day from the Atlantic with yet another low pressure sweeping in. Okay, let's start going through chart data then. This is the latest UK Met Euro run. It's talking for midnight on Tuesday. You guessed it, low pressure, bringing further wet and windy weather in from Arctic Atlantic. So I've been stuck in a washing machine, isn't it? You know, constant sort of rinse cycle. Just keeps churning away. Hold on. Hold on, I'm making myself cough now. Just keep churning away. They're going to Wednesday and Thursday, and the low pressure areas keep on coming. By the end of next week, though, the low pressure starts shifting off to the east. A bit of a ridge gets going in the Atlantic. That will start to dry things out. Probably still showers around because we are under a trough overall. But I think, you know, it is turning a bit drier towards the end of next week. Also starting to pull wind into a bit of a colder northwesterly direction. So temperature beginning to lower, not dramatically so, but beginning to lower the temperature and drying out a little bit with the UK Met by the coming weekend, by next weekend. Icon again brings lots of low pressure in off the Atlantic through the coming week. We get through the next weekend and then the low pressure start to ease their way eastwards. Again, a little bit of a ridge started to build out in the west, so just seeing the wettest of weather beginning to ease a little bit, probably still showery though, and starting to get a bit colder as well as the air begins to pull into the north, but nothing dramatic in terms of colder weather up to next weekend. This is how the KMA is looking. It's come from Metrocell, of course. Same idea for most of next week with further areas of low pressure bringing more unsettled weather in till we get to next weekend, 6th, 7th of January, and then the low pressure start to move their way to the east. Higher pressure begins to build out in the Atlantic. Takes a little while, but eventually, as we head toward day 10, start to drop in this low from the north. That will bring rain and snow with it. And behind that, heights are rising quite strongly in the North Atlantic around Greenland and Iceland. So into the northeast goes the wind there as we get to day 10. Excuse me once again, everybody. Northeasterly winds much colder with those northeasterly winds with KMA by the time we get into second week of January, looking really wintry there. Actually cold and, I'll say cold and snowy, not cold wintry, cold and snowy with those northeasterly winds via this blocking area of high pressure around Greenland Iceland. So that's the route into not only breaking out of the deluge, but also turning much colder there. That's how we could do it. It looks simple enough, but of course it's nowhere near as straightforward as that. And the key is to get that block going around Greenland and Iceland. Let's have a look at the GFS. This was GFS midnight run. Again, low pressure further unsettled weather through the early to middle part of next week. By next weekend, well, we are seeing some higher pressure just out to our west, but going nowhere near as far north as the KMA, for example, takes it. So it's more of a high pressure just to the west of Ireland, really. So it would be drier and cooler, probably some overnight frost, but, you know, not much going on from a cold perspective. That's day 10. High pressure over and to the west of the country, so definitely breaking up deluge anyway, turning drier, but not especially cold, other than perhaps some overnight frost. And then beyond that, the high pressure just sinks south, and back comes the Atlantic. So as you go towards the middle part of January, excuse me again, everybody, we're back into really unsettled conditions once more. This is the GFS 6, which we know is also going to become pretty mild in its latter stages anyway. Now let's see how it happens. So we have more wet, windy weather to come over the rest of this coming week. Then by the weekend, we take the low pressure way to the east. Looks a little bit more like, for example, UK Met icon there. A bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge trying to get going in the Atlantic. Again, not as far north, but showing signs of a bit of warm air advection anyway. So, again, the high pressure is mostly centred over and to the west of the UK and Ireland, but you see this southerly going up towards Greenland. So we have got a bit of DOAA going on there. This is the spoiler low, this low towards Iceland here. If that gets out of the way, then we might get that high pressure further north. Remember, the further north we get the high pressure, the more chance we've got of turning things cold. That's day 9, so we are very close then, starting to pull in some much colder air from the north. Notice that low from Iceland is sinking down into the North Sea, which is quite interesting. But it just doesn't quite work out. So eventually we just finish up this high pressure over the country, probably frosty, and then by the time we get beyond day 10, the high pressure sinks southwards into France, and we go back into Atlantic winds again, so mild up, wetter and windier there, heading into the middle part of January. Near miss with the GFS 6Z. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe, make sure to show everyone for Tim out. Why not drop a comment, let us know what you think about this and all of our videos, and don't forget to tell friends about GavsWeatherVids. Thank you so much everyone for doing that. We need to put on around 45 subscribers, that's all, to get to 17.6k. So if you could give us a sub, that would be amazing. Thank you so much everybody. Right, this is the GEM. Again, we've got low pressure bringing lots of unsettled weather in over the coming days. The low pressures just keep on coming as we get as we get into the into next weekend, looking much more unsettled with the GEM. Trying to get colder as well. So this is quite an interesting scenario. So we've got deep low over Scotland, more low pressure through here. There's a weather front that will be trailing out into the Atlantic through oh, no, so sorry, buddy. And then to the south of that, really very mild air being drawn up from like the Canary Islands and whatnot. But to the north a bit, with this ridge just here, much colder air started coming to the northern side of that low from the Arctic. Now, how this resolves itself, so it's a proper battle going on. How it resolves itself is that the weather front develops into another area of low pressure just down to the southwest. Again, that bringing lots of heavy rain with it at the same time. Colder air digging in from the north and the northeast on the north side of the low. Look at a big temperature contrast there by day 9, Monday the 8th of January. So really mild, if not warm, across France with the upper air temperatures. Very cold across, cold to north of Scotland, very cold to the north of Scotland in the Norwegian Sea. By the time we get to day 10, Tuesday the 9th, the GM then takes that low pressure way to France. So all of the fronts and areas of low pressure basically end up to the south and the east of us, and we start to draw in this much colder northeast winds. That's the kind of thing that could bring, lots of very heavy rain to south, but could also bring a significant snow event as well. That is how the upper air temperature look by day 10 with the gem, and very, very cold air poised just to our north and northeast, start plunging south across the country on those northeasterly winds. And then this is the ECM, which we know from the 500 millibar height anomaly chart is going to be going cold as well. See how that happens. So we start off on Tuesday, very similar to the other model output, with low pressure being further wind and rain across the country, keeping it unsettled into the end of next week. And then next weekend, that's when the change happens as the low pressures start to sink southwards and eastwards. Heights begin to rise to the north, as we saw on the 500 millibar height anomaly flow chart. Eventually a block starts getting going centred around Iceland. So this is next Sunday, 7th of January. And yeah, you can see we've got high pressure air, 1,025 millibars getting going around Iceland. Winds are pulling into a colder east-north-east direction. Upper air temperatures are going cold across the country. Very cold air. My 10 Celsius iceberg sitting to our north and east. And then what happens at day 9, which is Monday the 8th of January, we're pulling in properly cold air from the east there with this block between Scotland and Iceland. And so the whole country is looking cold, very cold air getting closer to us from the east as well. And that's the situation at day 10, which is Tuesday the 9th of January. And this looks pretty mouth-watering for cold and snow lovers, because not only are we drawing in a cold easterly wind, there is also a front, I think, that's coming in from the east there along the elongation in the iceberg. Remember, we're always looking for kinks. We're always looking for kinky isobars. Ooh, matron in these situations. So that brings a trough in from the east within very cold air and introducing even colder air. So look at the upper air temperature by 10 Celsius iceberg is beginning to move towards the east coast there. If we could go on another 24 hours, if possible, we'll see out my 10 Celsius iceberg engulfing many parts of the country, particularly England and Wales, and snow will be coming in from the east with those very cold upper air temperatures as well. So quite a shocking ECM this one. That's probably the run of the winter so far, I would say, from a cold and snow perspective, from the ECM anyway. I've seen, some pretty mouth-watering statistics at times from the ever chopping and changing GFS. We haven't seen much, though, this winter so far from the ECM. Run for winter from the ECM there. Whether it comes off, we'll have to wait and see. We've just established there's a lot of uncertainty from next weekend onwards within the model output today. Right, this is a precipitation forecast based on the ECM run. Now check this out. So of course, starting off very unsettled today. Further wet and windy weather to come. Showery over the new year. Another batch of really heavy rain on Tuesday as well. More showery conditions into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then the change begins to take place into next weekend. Start seeing the showers pulling back to more coastal regions, so turning drier and also starting to turn colder as well. But check out the green colours appearing in the North Sea onto the east coast by the beginning of the second week of January. And there we are by day 10, that is midnight on the 9th of January, and snow gathering to our east and start to push inland. So as I say, but some sort of trough or feature through the elongation in the isobars there, and that is what's bringing the snow from the east. And of course behind that I've got my 10 Celsius iceberg. So behind this sort of trough type feature, let's change colour. So we've got a trough feature through there along the elongation in the isobars, that's going in that direction. And then behind that trough feature, that's where the really cold upper air temperatures are lurking with my 10 Celsius iceberg just off the east coast. And those really cold upper air temperatures moving in that direction as well. So with those really cold upper air temperatures, we've got all these snow showers waiting in the North Sea too. Very interesting ECM run, but it is only one run. Please remember that, everybody. So it probably won't verify, but let's see. These are the odds on the table within the ECM Ensemble Day 4, Day 10. Gets us to the 9th of January. Excuse me once again, everyone. From the Icelandic Med Top is 16 members of the ECM Ensembles, including the control and the operation run. So the majority option have that high pressure blocking to the north and northwest, low pressure to the south and the east, wind coming in from that increasingly cold east and northeast direction. We've got 15 here, but they're very similar, really. High pressure, if anything, perhaps a little bit further north, a little bit more influence from low pressure, but all in all, that would have a wind direction in from the east and the northeast as well. So if you put the 16 there together with 15 there, that's over 30 members of the ECM Ensemble. So it looked at appreciable levels of northern blocking and potentially cold northeasterly winds. We've got 12 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure over and slightly to the north of the country, so that's probably going to be quite cold as well, but will be mostly dry. Winds in from the east. We've got 8, but looks much more like the GFS, I think, with higher pressure never really making it further northwards, so just, drier, cooler, but not especially cold with those 8. But that is the minority option within the ECM ensembles. The majority option, the 16 and the 15, actually looking quite wintry. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. It gets us to the 14th of January. 14 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure in the Atlantic up to Greenland. Low pressure is to our east. So that keeps things cold into the middle part of January there. We've got 9 with high pressure moving to the south west, so that allows some slightly milder air to come in from off the Atlantic. Another 9 with low pressure right over the top of the country, combined with mid-Atlantic ridge going towards Greenland. That's going to be very unsettled, probably quite cold, but not as cold maybe as a few days before, but overall that is still a relatively cold scenario. We've got another 8 just here with high pressure in the North Atlantic going up towards Greenland, low pressure to our south and east. That keeps the wind direction in from the northeast, so that's going to be cold and wintry. We've got 6 with high pressure more towards the Canadian side of Greenland, so still blocking but going more towards the Canadian side with its low pressure over, because that's probably turning a bit milder. And then we've got 5 here with high pressure somewhere between Iceland and Norway, low pressure over France. That'll have wind in cold easterly direction. Most of the options look relatively interesting there from a cold perspective, I must say. Right, CFS V2. Finally, these are 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into week periods. The first week period takes from the 30th to the 5th of January. So the next week is unsettled still, dominated by low pressure. Week 2 is the 6th to the 12th of January. Low pressure then to the northeast. High pressure in the Atlantic going up towards Greenland. That's turning things colder from the north and from the northeast. Although notice heights are still relatively high down towards Spain, which is a problem to keep the cold weather going. This is the reason why by week 3, 13th to the 19th of January, that high pressure is just pushed back northwards again from Spain into the Med, and so that gets wind back into the southwest again. So only a brief colder interlude there from the CFS when we're back into southwests again. And then week 4 is the 20th, 26th of January with low pressure remaining in the Atlantic and wind still coming in from the west-southwest. So we do get a colder week 2, but otherwise a relatively mild January predicted by the CFS today. Okay, we're done. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, share, subscribe. Thanks so much everybody for doing that. Why not drop a comment and let us know what you think about this and all of our video. Don't forget to tell friends about GavsWeatherVids. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. So the plot is thickening in terms of whether we're going to get some cold weather starting this time next week, and whether the second week of January could deliver some appreciably cold and wintry conditions. ECM says yes, GFS says no, and they've got a range, of other models that are, either going with the ECM, such as the KMA, or somewhere in between, which I suppose would be like the GEM, for example. So we should wait and see how it all works out, but quite interesting as we approach the new year. And of course, we will be keeping you updated at GavsWeatherVids. Right, so that's it for today's video. Just coming up tomorrow, it's New Year's Eve, so we're going to have a 6 AM UK weather forecast for New Year's Eve. We might put in a little extra video tomorrow looking at the JMAC as well. I would like to get that in before the end of the month, and of course tomorrow is the last day of the month. And then there'll be the final video that we'll release tomorrow afternoon. That will be a little bit of an epic, most today's video has gone on for nearly half an hour, but tomorrow's video will be a 30-minute 10 to 14 day, and we'll be discussing how the channel has gone through the year, and what's happened over the year as well in terms of the weather. So that can be quite an interesting video. There will be a bit of an announcement at the end of that New Year's Eve video, so make sure you check that out. Stick around to the very end of the New Year's Eve final video, and I'll have a bit of news for you all. And then New Year's Day, it's 6 AM forecast, I suspect, and we will also have our New Year's Day roundup, where we'll look at things like solar activity, sea surface temperature, anomalies, QBR, etc., for the first time since winter updates. And Terry Scold's January forecast should be released on New Year's Day as well. So lots to look forward to on my channel for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Please keep checking back for more. For this video though, that's all for now, and thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and bye for now.